Hey,
Hey,
Pete.
good afternoon to you, Kevin, and my friend Roseanne Rabiola Mile. It's 1:05 p.m. my time on Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. And I know we're all busy, but we've had a conversation that we've been trying to sneak in between all of our incredible schedules for the last couple of days. And I look forward to it because I think in this hour span, we're gonna hit hard on those issues that we need to reconcile to determine if we're going in the same direction or if we're going to have to modify or if we're going to have to go different directions, which is fine because who cares, because we're not in a place where we've already got 15 million people following us and we're having a crisis of conscience or some sort of situation. We're building the plane as we're flying it, and we really like each other, and I think it's going to be really a cool conversation. I don't have a lot of time. I've got approximately maybe a little over an hour. I know you guys are busy too, so we'll try to bring it to a natural conclusion at the right time. But I'm going to open up with this. Yesterday was the Super Tuesday, and I've seen a lot of things that are remarkably important based on what we are attempting to do and what we're also arguing about and what a lot of people are befuddled about. And I think just for, I kind of switch back between you two, and, I'm okay with whoever's going to lead this downstream, but I'm going to start the conversation off with you, Roseanne, because I want you to tell us, kind of how you're seeing things at the moment, and what's on your radar, and what's important to you at this very moment.
What's important to me is the direction I have been going in for the last, it's going on 4 years, Patrick. 4 years working with you. Prior to that, it was, let's say I probably started being like totally conscious about stuff when I was like maybe about 16, 17. Okay. That was back in, we're talking 1965. Okay. So I've been at this a long time. And the more I keep, the more I keep moving forward with what I know is the truth and what all my experience has reinforced, and all the things that I learn every single day. There is not a day that goes by that I don't have my mind open to how can we get the truth to the public. And we talked about this the other day. I've been out in the street a long time, and what you do in order to keep doing that is you don't look and cry and feel sorry for the individual, okay? You look at the larger situation. How has it come to this? Whether it's about feeding people, affordable housing, education, prison reform, Medicare for all. We're buried up to our eyeballs in debt. What you have to look at is going to the top. You have to look, and I've always looked at the the criminals, and they were criminals. I mean, how in the world can someone get away with murdering a young woman if they are not connected to the criminals running the neighborhood, the criminals who own the judges, who are calling the shots in the system? So that act that young man wasn't punished for is a symptom. He's a symptom. Trump is a system. Throwing a young black man into a garbage can and setting him on fire. All this stuff is connected. And why does it happen? And I mean, think about that, okay? Sure, I have sympathy and I empathize with the victims. But until we get our frickin' heads around those criminals, those financial terrorists, those fraudsters, those, Tom Murphy calls them criminals in suits with no shame. Okay. And he's 80-something years old and he's still working at it. And he knows what the path is. The path is to the truth. And I know people say, oh yeah, let's hear, I saw some comment, oh, let's hear all these millions of stories about people who foreclosed upon. Yeah, that's fine, but how do we purge the corruption and get to that rotten head at the top? Why are people who are gladly suffering the fools out there, gladly suffering their lying, cheating, stealing, killing, money laundering, they listen to them gladly, gladly. Why don't they listen to the truth? The truth is not complicated. It is not rocket science. It's racketeering. What do they not understand about racketeering? What is it? What have they got inside their head? They got any brain?
This is great stuff, but we'll get to that in a minute. I want to get Kevin in here. What they don't get I'll just do a quick sort of band-aid on this. What they don't get about racketeering is the source. So Kevin, yesterday I was thinking about a lot about some of your questions and kind of where we are, like you, like today, for example, I have been in the midst of the biggest deals of my life, man. I mean, I'm sitting at the head of an apex of a back and forth and brokeraging huge movie deals with A-list stars to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. It's been a lot of hard work to get into a position like this. It spanned my entire career, but I'm busy. I got shit going on, and you're busy. You know what I'm saying? But yet, yeah, I've got some information, and to the point that Roseanne had just teed that up, I've got the information that answers that question of what the racketeering is, what the source is, and I went on a grand odyssey to get that information at humongous expense that fell on deaf ears because as I continue to relay to everybody I can that the only thing Americans buy are lies. They don't even know the truth. They can't see the truth. They can't hear the truth. They don't. There's so much overwhelming misinformation and disinformation by a kaleidoscope of what we used to call fire hoses of lies. And they're coming from mainstream. They're coming from a lot of things in the independent media that you're a little bit critical of me of, and I look forward to you being critical of me, and hopefully we can suss that out. But there's a reason I am, and it's because of what I've done on this journey. Now, is it penetrating to the tens of millions of people that need to hear it, that are the victims of this whole thing, that aren't aware of it, and so they go skew one way or the other because they're like, I just came up with a new saying today, cats on crack, which I like because that's what it feels like. It's like herding cats on crack. And where are they going? Well, we can see all of the different sort of silos or the different culture or wherever they're going, and we can give it the names and we can address that downstream. But for me, I've said, and you asked me the question today, so do you want to keep truth bombing until after the election? and then we'll see how it turns out. No, I've said that I'm going to probably go another 2 months, and I'm going to continue doing what I do, because what I do is different than anybody in the world. There's not one person. I know how audacious that sounds. There's not one person on the planet that has the information that I have that's willing to talk about it, that's willing to address it, that's willing to serve it on a platinum platter to the tens of millions of people that have been completely decimated by this situation and are now in disarray. Now, to just briefly to Roseanne's point, I'm a child of the '70s. We're all kind of in, the same sort of, confluence of things that happened before us and created. When you were talking about the judiciary or judges being controlled by the neighborhood or the mob in the neighborhood, which was your experience in Chicago, and we know it happens all over. I remember not ever thinking that was a possibility. And I remember seeing The Godfather when I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, that's an isolated situations. It's where the mob brawls. But on these massive, going back to yesterday with the Super Tuesday, if you listen to Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell and the entirety of MSNBC, they keep coming back to, look, the courts are not going to do their job. There's corruption in the courts. This is coming from Lawrence Tribe, the professor emeritus of constitutional law at Harvard University. The shock that, wait a second, Supreme Court actually serves what I call a corporate theocracy, and and they're not gonna do what experts have been basically projecting should be the outcome. And what they say is, now it's up to the American people. And Kevin, I'll just say directly to you, the American people that have been boondoggled, hogged and tied for the last 15 years in a situation where everybody got railroaded. And now it's up to the American people to save what? Their side of the equation, to save democracy? And what I've been saying all along in my truth bombs is, you don't have a democracy, you don't have a free market system. And, we both agree on what we need to do with the Clean New Deal to get to the outcome, but we've got different methodologies of how we're going to get there, especially lacking resources, right? Because, yeah, while I'm, in the midst of massive deals, I don't have a lot of excess capital right now to fund this situation, and nor do I really want to. Why? Because we spent $4.5 million to get the $33 trillion truth in 2009, and we got the $70 trillion truth as a result of it. We've already done our part, and we've got the answers. What we really need are the tens of millions of Americans to pony up $13 a piece so that we can actually force a reckoning. And why is that important for Americans to invest in a movement to purge corruption? Well, because the Supreme Court decided in 2012 that your voice is money, and it's called Citizens United. And so what I have actually, said the last couple of days, that in my juxtaposition of how we're going to get forward in terms of what the Clean New Deal is, we're going to create a new Glass-Steagall, and we're going to end Citizens United. We're going to do it based on your idea, Kevin, which is to get a presidential candidate to be able to champion these, because that's the only national convention, and we can go into detail about how a presidential candidate is going to do that. But this is where, this is where we're not completely seeing eye to eye. And I look forward to you selling me and selling the American people or whoever watches this, while we agree with, check off the list of what we would like to see happen. And I do agree, and I'm just going to check it off real quick so we're on the same page. You got to get a presidential candidate in office to be able to have a campaign that is going to reconfigure the energy paradigm with a jobs guarantee, so that we get people out of the gig economy working with the mean market average to be able to get a livable wage, so that we can actually have a consumption society for the first time in 15 years that's not based on the revolving door and rolling credit, which everybody is in debt up to their eyeballs. And I have an issue on some levels with, some of the things that you've laid out, just because I do recognize in a free society, you should have the responsibility to not get yourself in too much debt. You really should. But the bottom line is, we've created a situation to where people don't have a choice. They don't have an income. They've got if they're going to, live in an apartment or buy a house, the prices are so freaking high that the only way you can do it is to do what the system is forcing you to do, to be on that gerbil wheel of debt. And so, yeah, I do think that basically having a jubilee of debt, and eventually we can talk about the details. Is it a massive jubilee? Is it, for credit debt? Is it for everyone across the board? Eventually, that's going to happen anyway, because there's no way this system can continue to have the $33 trillion national debt, even though MMT is going to tell us differently, and the $33 trillion credit debt for the consumers. The problem is it does get to a point, especially, Jesus Christ, I'm going on. I don't want to go too much further. We are in a really, really significant mud bog of toxicity from hell, where the choices are laid true from yesterday. There's two candidates. It's not a democracy that's being fueled and run by billionaires. What billionaire side are you on? And where are you going to as their mice or their tools in the full circus or their sheep or whatever? Which way are you going to go in the lesser of two evils approach, when we are telling you, America, we have the information that the reason that they can do what they do is because they've been stealing, looting ad nauseum for 15 years from the full faith and credit of the United States, to make sure that they can at any moment flip the switch where they can pay their debts. Who's they? The financial system, which is private equity, which I hope we talk about, and I hope you watch Chris Hedges yesterday, asset managers, hedge funds, and the too big to fail systemically important financial institutions that are a fiefdom and a thiefdom at the same time. They have complete control of this country. It's tyranny 101. They own the revolving door of government. They own the revolving door of the judiciary. This is not separation of powers. This is not the United States of America. You've got two choices, the lesser of two evils approach. And what we're trying to do is to reestablish the American middle class, but ultimately at the same time, because we're building the plane and flying it at the same time, we've got to make millions of people aware that the corruption that we're all now kind of seemingly being aware of, especially those of us that would lean against Trump in this particular case, that SCOTUS is corrupt. Yeah, SCOTUS is corrupt. And it's been corrupt for a long time. Should Ginny Thomas and Clarence Thomas have some comeuppance, especially if we're talking about conflicts of interest with Fani Willis? Yeah, and then some. But beyond all of that, the bottom line is the corruption for the 6 justices that Mitch McConnell played brilliantly, and the Democrats got their ass kicked, gave us a situation where all of the things that we'll see in the State of the Union, whether it's the abortion situations and how that plays into stem cell and the ones that are on the waiting list and all of the other complications. We know there is only so much oxygen in the room, just like I'm demonstrating by taking up all the oxygen in this conversation. I apologize for that, but I got to set the table because this is a critical conversation between the three of us. Because we got to get millions of people to believe us. We got to get them to come on board. You got to walk arm in arm with us to champion the truth above the madness and lies that billionaires completely own the fucking world, and they're fueled by the full faith and credit of the United States. And oh yeah, by the way, it all happened illegally through the largest racketeering enterprise in the history of the world that never ended. What else do you need to know? Sorry, I'm fucking pissed. And I'm going to be pissed throughout, but I look forward to you telling me that I can't be critical of Brianna Greyjoy, and I can't be critical of Tucker Carlson, and I can't be critical of Russell Brand, and I can't be critical of Matt Taibbi, and I can't be critical of MSNBC and Rachel Maddow and John, and because we need allies. What we need are tens of millions of people to turn off the volume on those fucking liars and listen to the truth, is what I say. Anyway, that's my point. So now I'll be quiet and I'll let you tell me what I got wrong.
No, Patrick, thank you for that setup there and that laying out the issues and stuff like that. You didn't get anything wrong. You didn't. The problem is, this is 480 truth bombs in. I did a little analysis. I'm a banker. I did a little analysis of, the last 42 truth bombs. And the bottom line is, and we shared this data with you, the algorithm has put you on the mute button. The algorithm has put you on the mute button. And when you're on mute, it doesn't matter how many times you repeat yourself. It doesn't matter how much you raise your voice. No one can hear you. The content, the quality of the content that you're putting out in these truth bombs should have millions and millions of followers. but it doesn't. And it's not because of what you're doing or how you're doing it. It's because the powers that be don't want your message to get out. So we have to figure out a way how to get off the mute button. Okay. Now, when we do get off the mute button and we start talking to the American public, it's important that we meet them where they are. And I I think this is one of the actual areas where we have a disconnect. Not you specifically, but maybe you and Roseanne. If you want to have a sense of where most of the American public is, hold your breath. And the longer you hold your breath, the more you're going to forget about the $70 trillion truth. And the more you're going to think about, I need to take another breath. Okay? I mean, you're talking about 12% of America who has food shortages, who report food shortages. The mass majority of America are living paycheck to paycheck, and they cannot afford a $400 unexpected expense. The mass majority of America can't afford to buy a house today. The mass majority of middle-class people in America cannot afford to buy a house. Forget about working class. That's how bad this is. So this is where they are. And the fact that they're focused more on how they're going to turn on the lights, right? You know, than who did this to them, right? It's just, I mean, it's every bit of evidence. If you look at them and look at how they're expressing themselves, it indicates this. So, yeah, they are buying a bunch of lies. They're buying a bunch of lies because there's been billions of dollars invested in telling them a bunch of lies, telling all of us a bunch of lies. And it really is a privilege to be able to not focus on how you're going to survive and turn your attention to the information that you've been given about things so that you can take the time then and the mental space to say, is this true or not? But when you're trying to eat, as we are seeing vividly in Gaza, and I'm not trying to open that can of worms, but I'm just saying, we have the pictures. They drop the food. What do people do? They run, right. I mean, there's no one there who's unconcerned about why they're in that situation. But I can assure you, their focus is not on why they're in that situation. They're just trying to eat. They're trying to feed their kids. And while that's an extreme version of what the average American is going through, relative to what the average American is used to, what the average American believes, has been raised to believe that if they work hard, play by the rules, are a decent person, they can make it work in America. I mean, it's the richest country in the world. But look what they're doing. Look where they are. Look at the economic opportunities. You mentioned debt peonage, and people need to manage their debt. The only way to get a college, we are in an advanced, highly technologically advanced economy. In order to get a degree, to be able to do that kind of work, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars of debt before you even make a dollar. So, I mean, the system has been set up so that people get into debt peonage. There's no way to manage that. It's not, I'm not, going out and, bonbons and fluffy slippers and luxury cars. No, it's in order. The price of entry is debt peonage. Okay. So this is where they are. So first task, how do we get you off the mute button? The second task is, once we get you off the mute button, can we meet the people where they are? Because if we're going to yell at them about things that they cannot focus on yet, right, then that's not going to change their mind. I mean, I'm just saying. And why would you expect it to? I'm your friend, and yeah, I love both of you, and I'm totally committed to this task. But we got to meet these people where they are, right? And where they are is they need the help. And the fact that they need the help this desperately, this intently, and stuff like that is an affront to our country. It's an affront to the wealth of our country, right? And so therefore there should be no guilt, knowing that the reason why they need the help is because they've been robbed. And you have that truth, right? There is no guilt, and should be no guilt in how we help them. It shouldn't be stigmatized by notions of socialism or, no, because if the free market had been allowed to bear and they got paid for the productivity that they actually do, they wouldn't need anybody's help.
Right.
Archie Bunker didn't need anybody's help. you know, he was able to buy his own house, send his daughter to college, right? Okay, that's all they want. So this is where we are. So how do we get you off the mute button? We're working on this idea. I know.
Can
What
I
comes
just
first,
ask
chicken?
you a quick question? I mean, I
Yeah.
really want to shut up because I took up the beginning, and I think you're making absolutely fantastic points. But I think this is so extremely important to do connect where we are, because what you just said, again, this is the most crucial part to the average Joe that can't hear us. And I do yell, and I don't want to because of what you just said. I understand when somebody is on their heels, and I've known this my whole life. When you're on your heels, you can't be effective. When you're surviving and you're in desperate straits, you're in no position to be able to conceptualize what it is that I'm telling you and fight back in a concerted way that is at the level of what this monster campaign of these billionaires and these treasonous assholes have been able to ferment. But what I need people to understand, based on what Kevin just said, which is so crystal clear, which has turned everything we're supposed to be upside down and inside out, starting with the law. The law is not equal. If you don't know that, I'm sorry, you're living in a world that you need to understand as quickly as possible. The law is not equal. The law serves who's paying it, especially the courts. But you've got to understand, for all of us, if we were to go back to biblical sort of text and everything else, it's like, how much are you responsible for the fruit of your own labor, right? Do you go out and do you go work in the fields? Do you get the orchards? Do you make the food that makes the community be able to survive? In what part are you in this economic cycle to where everything that you do creates some sort of value, right? Whether you're in construction, I mean, you can fast forward 2,000 years from the analogy, but my point is that what you can't see and what nobody sees is the fact that we have a financial system that does literally flip a switch and can create tens of trillions of dollars of credit based on everything that this country once was, which is what you think we are. And we're not. They've been stealing it in ways that are beyond the easiest to understand parables. If you understand, like, if I could continue going, and I will just finish this last point. If you are all in on Trump's guilty and you can't believe that SCOTUS is letting him get away with it, given everything that we saw on January 6th and the insurrection, how you want to define insurrection, blah, 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 what side of the fence you're on and all of that stuff. If you think Donald Trump is guilty of any of that, particularly the 91 indictments, and he just got $450 million levied against him, plus $100 million tax fund because of what the AG of New York, if you believe all of that, then what I'm telling you is that's that big compared to what we have been revealing you that the whole system has gotten away with, that everybody on mainstream media, particularly Rachel Maddow and all of these other guys, and I know, Kevin's going to be very critical of the people that should become our allies, but I'm going to argue something slightly different. But I'm critical of everybody in the space because this is what you're not hearing. You don't have a chance. There is nothing you can do to fight this system as long as you don't understand this is happening. It's called asymmetric information. They've got all the cards, but they're stealing from you and me and everyone on this call and tens of millions of people out there. Please continue, Kevin. Thanks for letting me say that.
I hear you, Patrick. I just want you to know the two things you accomplished in that, what you just said, and I'm not trying to be critical. We're just being honest, right? Is one, you made sure that the mute button will be on this conversation. No one will see this conversation because you keep on talking about the thing that they are muting us for. And two, I don't think you heard me. They are not, even if we get to them, if that's going to be your position, if that's the hook to gain their attention, is to tell them the very thing they can't focus on right now. I mean, this is what I said. I'm only speaking English, right? They are focusing in on how they're going to keep their lights on. They're focusing in on how they can find and maintain affordable housing. Unless we talk to them about how we're going to help them in that situation, which is the heart which is a major part of the Clean New Deal, right? We need to be talking about what's going to do, what can be done, what they can do to help themselves. And that is get behind us in this Clean New Deal, right? Because when we do the Clean New Deal, this is how it's going to change their lives. But we can't get there unless we elect an independent president of the United States. And what Super Tuesday demonstrated yesterday is that the contest is now pretty much, or is now set in terms of the establishment parties. But the fine-tuned read of what's happening on the Democratic side is all the smart progressives. Look at the political analysts on this of who you would consider smart. You know, okay, they are turning on Biden. Even on MSNBC, you know, and on CNN, they're starting to turn on Biden based on, look at all the non-committed votes in Massachusetts, in several states that allowed for non-committed, in the South, in the Northeast. You know, you go around. I just went, I mean, state after state that allowed for non-committed. Material amounts of people, you know, still are voting in that. It wasn't just Michigan, right? What is laying up between Trump and Biden is that Biden is becoming unelectable. And that is a danger. Because then if that's the choices, then it's Trump. But the Democrats are starting to turn on Biden. And I mean, Christiane Amanpour, you know, what's his name? Fareed, on
Fareed Zakaria. And
yeah,
also,
yes, Zakaria.
Also
Yeah,
Dan
I mean,
Jarrett, I saw it.
it is right. No, there's, I mean, you know, Michael Moore. You know, I cannot say this. The smart intelligentsia, the political analyst data firm that does all the liberal polling data and stuff like that, they're already talking that this is a problem. This is a major. He's becoming unelectable because of weakness amongst voters under 40, weakness among voters who are Arab American, weakness. You know, I mean, it's just he's bleeding. You know, the Black vote. He's bleeding Hispanic vote. He's bleeding women's vote. I mean, flat out, in an ahistorical way, right? He cannot win if that stays that way. And, you know, so we're either looking at, you know, we're looking at a very dire situation if we don't get behind a third party candidate. Because it really, if the American public, when they pull the lever in November, if they're not convinced that it's not a throwaway vote to vote to consolidate behind a third party candidate, Trump is going to win. Now, we can argue the substance of the Supreme Court's 9-0 decision. I don't waste any more time with that. At the very minimum, the court is not going to stop the American public from deciding whether they want Trump to be president. And it's the American public who has given him the nomination on the Republican side, despite everything that we know, right? So here we are, right? What are we going to do? And I say, if we talk about third-party candidates, if we talk about the Clean New Deal, these are not things that I think the algorithm will throttle you on. There's nothing third rail about those things. But if we keep on talking about how they robbed us, the pervasive corruption at every level of government, then no one will hear it. That's why no one has heard it. And so I'm hoping to accomplish in this conversation is that we do a pivot, right? We need to elect an independent to be president of the United States in order to enact the Clean New Deal. And if we don't enact the Clean New Deal, we will not be able to hold the people who have robbed the American public and destroyed our democracy and destroyed our economy. We will not be able to hold them to account. Because the only way we can hold them to account is that we run the Justice Department. Then the Supreme Court can't ignore us, right? But if that's not the case, as you know from all your work, there are people trying in the courts right now. And even though they're right, even though they have the evidence, the court is already owned by the powers that be. And while the camera is not showing it, the court will rule against them anyway, over and over again. Okay, so this is our only shot. I don't know of another alternative to breach the magnitude of corruption we're talking about if we don't convince 80 million people to coalesce behind an independent on the basis of the Clean New Deal. I would, if there's another way to accomplish this, I'm all for it. And we're not going to be able to do that if we keep on doing what we're doing. What we're doing is we're on the mute button. You got to get off the mute button to be heard.
I'm going to respond to you briefly. I'm going to turn it over to you, Roseanne, because I can see that you're eager to say some stuff. But man, Kevin, again, man, dude, all respect, dude. I think you're fantastic in your positioning, and I do. I buy it. I'm like, fuck, how am I going to argue with that, right? I mean, it's what we do. But then I get, every once in a while I get these things where it's like people are like, hey man, how come I haven't heard from you? And oh my God, what, and they're like, hey, have you ever thought about organizing and those sorts of things? And it's like, have I ever thought about, got 479 truth bombs, in the last year, incessantly and nonstop talking about the Clean New Deal. And here we are with this idea. And yeah, Kevin and I completely agree. And and there's so much more we can talk about, and there's plenty of things we don't see eye to eye on. But what we see eye to eye on is that unless the United States, look, as far as I'm concerned, we're a third world country as it is. I think we're in a banana republic with nukes, and I think that we live in a failed state. I think this is just the vestige of just an illusion, whether it's the CPI numbers and all of these things that the economy is doing great. Why? Because of all the things that I can't touch because of the third rail, apparently, that we see people, I see people being, for example, censored on YouTube all the time. There's a guy that I listen to by the name of the Maverick of Wall Street, and he does some incredible analytics, and I learn a lot from him, and I don't agree with him completely on a lot of things, but he's so far outside the bounds of understanding brokerage analysis and things that happen on a daily basis and all of the different ways that these types of guys can hedge and they can see things and they can bet on the shorts and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's incredible, but he got censored recently. He got censored from YouTube because they're finding little nitpicking ways because he's talking about the Federal Reserve, policy, what they've done in the past, and then ultimately what they think they're going to do in the future based on the interest rates, reduction over the course. Anyway, that's the third rail. So if a guy who's got millions of viewers, he's going to get immediately kicked off of YouTube by touching those things. I mean, yeah, you got a great case, right? And so somehow the tiny amount of people that filter their way in, if they could wrap their heads around everything that we're saying, but of course they can't because of what you just said, that they're starving and they don't have the bandwidth. I love the analogy, just hold your breath for 7 minutes and see, what's going to be your priority. Yeah. Okay. So, Roseanne, let me kick it to you. I mean, you and I are completely of the same mind, but Kevin makes a very astute and effective argument. And the question is, if in your sort of panoply of going under, through, around the gates and over and above, by any means possible, how does that sit with you? And then ultimately, how do you respond to it, given, what we've been trying to accomplish, given all of the information on the con and the new untouchables. And by the way, I'm going to remind everybody out there who's watched the con, why we did the new untouchables was because I got shut down by, I think, BlackRock, and I think I got shut down by the system. So I had to go and I had to find another pathway to be able to present a lot of the information that I had intended for season 2 of the con, which was to prove what Kevin is saying they won't let us talk about. So Go ahead, Roseanne. How do you respond, and how do you think this affects our sort of thought process? And I don't mean it is 2-1 against Kevin, but we've just been together for a long time, and you've been listening to me a lot, and we share a lot of the same convictions. So, what do you think?
Okay. Now, I've been writing things down because I forget stuff like right away. Okay. Now, Kevin talks about the mute button. You got it, baby. We're on mute and a half. Okay. So what I say to that is, number one, they can't put all of us on mute, because all that does is defeat their purpose, because they want everybody to spend money and buy the products. Okay. So number one, they can't put us all on mute. Okay. They couldn't stop all of us from going in the street, and they didn't.
But that's
They-
only if we are at a critical mass, which Kevin is saying we don't. So take it from there.
Okay. But okay, so we don't have critical mass. So I keep saying, you got the magic words? I don't believe in magic words. I don't believe that there is one way, one approach to say what needs to be said. And I will go to my grave saying, we got to purge corruption. Okay. And we got to start at the top. Okay. So what is it? I want specific. If it's not repeating the blueprint, the facts on a platinum platter, okay? I have, over the years, offered people, here's the solutions for all kinds of things for free. And they say no. Okay. And these are people who don't have a decent place to stay.
They don't say no. They just, their actions say no.
No, they actually say it's both. It's absolutely both. I can say, here, come with me. I will show you how to do this, how to get this, how to solve the issue you're in right now. And they say, nah, I'll go talk to my sister-in-law. No, I think
You're
I'll
just
go.
confirming what Kevin's saying.
Okay. So by saying to them, this is what we can do for you, why are they going to listen to us? Why?
Well,
Why?
no, if we're saying it's not, and it's not personal to you, Roseanne, because
I know,
we know you are a
I
saint.
want you to
We
say it.
know, yeah, no, if we are talking about America, recommitting America to reinvesting in us, right? Okay, that's a lot different than saying, hey, I have a solution. Kevin Howard has a solution. Listen to me. And someone saying, yeah, no, I'll talk to my friend. I get you, right? Proof of the pudding is how did America respond to FDR? I keep on, we had this in a previous Truth Bomb. FDR was able to build a coalition that elected him 4 times. Why? I mean, he convinced Black people to vote for the Democrats again. The Democrats were the Dixiecrats. They were they were the South, and FDR got blacks to vote for him again. He got working white class to vote for him. His coalition was much bigger that he brought to the Democratic Party. And how? Because he did both the things that the Clean New Deal required, right? He absolutely did hold power to account that caused the Great Depression. But he also had a national jobs program, and he put people back to work. I mean, and so what I'm saying here is I do not believe for a moment that the American public wouldn't get behind or wouldn't respond if we're saying this is how we can get this done. How we can get this done is us getting together and electing someone who's working for us. What the current politicians demonstrate is they don't work for us.
And I totally agree with that.
And even
And-
the American, they recognize this though. What I'm saying is you not only did you have 100,000 people in the state of Michigan who actually had to go to the physical polls and vote non-committed, but this happened across the country. You had 35,000 people in Massachusetts who went to the polls to vote non-committed because they understand that if 77% of Democrats say ceasefire now, and your president don't even hear you, won't even hear you. I mean, clearly these people do not work for us. So yes, by telling them they're not working for us, we need to elect someone who's working for us. And we can do that by putting 80 million of us get together, because that's what we have. We don't have a lot of money as an American people, but we got a good solid 120, 130 million people, many of which still don't vote and stuff like that, who are working class, median, middle class and below, who we can get together and we can turn this entire government over if we chose to do it.
All I want is 2 minutes, 3 minutes. How you gonna say it? That's all I want.
Yeah.
Show me.
Now this is
Show
right.
me.
This is this is us coming off the mute button. You're absolutely right. My thought process in terms of the pivot, and this is why I wonder if you and Patrick are too close to it, is that we're not dropping the priority of clearing up corruption. We're not dropping the priority of holding them to account. But the only way we can do it is we need to get the 80 million people first. We need to elect an independent who's committed to doing this, right? And in order to do that, we can't lead with the accountability issue. I mean, yes.
And I just want to see the lead. Show me the lead. Show me that it's moving the needle. That's all I want.
Okay, let me okay, I appreciate where she's coming from, but I agree with you. But let me just add a couple of things because I do want you to respond to this. All right, because I think
absolutely, Patrick.
But it's also a shortcut, because look, the reality of everything that happened in the New Deal was because there had already been 30 years of progressive movements that took place in the labor rights and the farmers and all of these guys that were fighting against Wall Street tyranny, and they were fighting, that gave us civil rights, and this was after the Civil War that led to Jim Crow. All of those sorts of upheavals in women's suffrage, they all kind of coalesced. I mean, there was a phase one that led to the trust busting, and that was like the first post Civil War scenario of by and for the people. And then it continued to where ultimately, it was 36. So it would have been in the kind of the second term where after they got through the Pecora hearings for FDR, he's like, look, man, I know who the enemy is. He called the enemy out, which were the bankers.
Yeah.
He said, I know who you are, and I welcome your hatred, and bring it. And the entire country went absolutely shebang, and that was the character of the country back then. That's what we're missing at the moment. And so it was a process. Do we have 20 years to make that happen?
I don't think it was a process. Look at the presidents. If you look at Warren G. Harding, if you look at Calvin Coolidge, if you look at Herbert Hoover, those are the three presidents leading up to FDR. Right. This is old school, old money. Herbert Hoover was Treasury Secretary previously. I mean, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't. Those movements that you speak to were in the hinterland. They had Eugene Debs and all that stuff. In other words, right. What I'm trying to say is that the coalescing, it was the coalescing in terms of political power did not manifest until the New Deal.
Right.
And so, no, but see, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't the years before leading up. What the politics, the years before leading up was like Trump, and then FDR. I mean, if you look at Warren G. Harding, if you look at Calvin Coolidge, these are not unpopular presidents. If you look at Herbert Hoover, this is what the majority, the bulk of the country was doing, right? And it was a radical shift in FDR. Yes, his cousin, Teddy, and 30 years earlier, was a different type of president, right? Was a progressive from a Republican progressive, breaking up, monopolies and stuff like that. But most of everything that came in between was not. And so we're not late. We can do this right now.
Oh, we have to. I agree with that. Okay, whatever. My point being that it took a lot of groups to come out of their silos to fuse that ultimately created the populist wave to be able to fight back. And oh yeah, by the way, they had the Great Depression in between. What do we have? Everything post Great Recession, which is a depression for a vast majority of Americans, which to your point, hold your breath 7 minutes. So the next part of that though, is I want to address your criticism of me because I want to really have this out. We need allies, right? Allies aren't liars. Allies aren't liars that can fangle the mess in a spaghetti bowl of madness that is actually something I can see clearly and something that I can see on display. So to your point about, 100,000 people showed up yesterday, non-committed, okay? Yeah, and I get the Michigan Arab vote and everything that means in context to Gaza. So, further to that, what the mainstream I've seen do in response to that, and what they're going to do in the State of the Union tomorrow, I guarantee it, is they're going to hit on the abortion scenario. They're going to try to get women that come out. Then they're going to talk about, of course, the indictments. And I don't even know if it'd be interesting if Biden brings up the Supreme Court during the State of the Union. But, they're going to go to the safe places that they've gone to the past, how many election cycles? It's the same stuff that we've got the lesser of two evils, right? That's what mainstream's going to do. And they're going to probably try to run out the clock on whatever sort of resistance capacity there is, which leads us to this situation where you're saying we have to find a president. What I've said in my recent truth bombs, I don't know if you've happened to see them, and I do be audacious with this, and I'll repeat it because I'm not fooling around. Think of me as the placeholder. Actually, think of me and Kevin and Roseanne as the placeholders, but me as the placeholder for the president that's going to give you the truth that nobody else will. Why? Because what has FDR done so far? Okay, have I seen what they're talking about? But then FDR is problematic, or FDR, RFK Jr. By way of Israel and Palestine. Okay, that's a big issue, right? That's 100,000 people that we're talking about. That, but yet they're not. Are they going to get behind RFK Jr.? I don't know. So is he going to pivot to something else? Right now, the way it stands from what I've seen with RFK Jr. is RFK Jr. is anti-pharmaceuticals and vaccines. Okay, to a lot of people, he sounds freaking insane on that. Given vaccines, but of course, COVID. There's a lot of people out there. But ultimately, because I've been very critical of RFK since I understood that, he's been on Fox and Tucker the whole time, and Bannon's behind the scene, and I know who Kucinich was with. And you asked me the question yesterday: Do you really have to be critical of Brianna Greyjoy? And to your point, the fact is maybe they all know what I don't know. Maybe they're all laughing at me every day. Maybe they're all pointing the finger at this idiot on Twitter. And they're like, doesn't he fucking get it yet? They're not going to let you bring the truth forward. They didn't let us bring the truth forward. They're not going to let you bring the truth forward. And yeah, we probably lost a lot of audience share over the course of the last 3 years. Do you guys remember what the Trump administration decision that led to all of this stuff, to where Google could work the algo to where they could kind of push where they wanted, their ad buys to go. I can't remember what the name of that whole thing was, but
one second.
Because I've heard like Kyle Kalinske and everybody else. I mean, they lost hundreds of thousands of
net neutrality.
So
that's right.
So maybe they already learned their lesson, and they're just like, okay, look, we learned you can't have a voice, and so here's what we're looking at, and you've admitted it yourself. Yeah, they've got you on the mute button. And it's important because people aren't going to be able to understand the full, scenario, uh, given their bandwidth because they've got to breathe. Okay, yeah, but when I continue to say that they're all lying to you and that these guys have stolen from you, and that's why you're in the situation you're in, why can't that get a toehold? I know why it can't, because people don't believe it. Because people don't want to believe it. People don't want to share it. Maybe the ones that have already gone through it, they've been train wrecked so much that they don't have the inner sort of grit and determination to once and for all triumph over this madness of corruption. Who knows what the issue is? But I also know how people operate, and you do too. You can, as you've said, create, and I'm gonna say what RFK Jr. said the other day, or no, sorry, Dennis Kucinich said, which I think was the prescient point. RFK said, or JFK, sorry, I'm confusing all the Kennedys. And yeah, by the way, out there, I was a punk rocker, and one of my favorite bands was the Dead Kennedys. So I've got that going for me. How about that? But the bottom line is that John F. Kennedy said, look, man, it doesn't matter. It takes one person to continue to fight the good fight. And then when they do it, it becomes a current. And when that current becomes strong enough, it can overwhelm the tyranny of injustice. And that was yeah, I agree with that. And so that's what I'm doing. And so kill the messenger. Okay, fine. Again, I'm not the savior. The truth is the savior. Who was Patrick Lovell? I'll go to the third rail again. The guy that got the truth that the $90 billion apparatus of the DOJ, the SEC, the FBI, the freaking Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, MSNBC, CNN, blah, 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 would not tell you. That already destroyed tens of millions of you and continue to this day. So Kevin, sorry, man. Sorry, dude. Sorry, I'm critical of people that aren't willing to tell the truth. Sorry, guilty as charged.
You're on mute.
Kevin, you might be on mute. His point being, that's what it sounds like.
Hello. But I tell you, you're not going to hear me, right? And I'm telling you, brother, this is what it is, right? And so, all right. So no,
You're good.
all I am saying about we can break through this. Okay, first and foremost, RFK Jr. is not getting the same. He feels he's a very pro-Israel, person, and the Kennedys have historically been pro-Israel. He's not getting the same impact that Trump is pro-Israel also, but Biden is the president. Biden is participating in what's going on. Biden is getting all the heat and everything because no one, as much as we hate, excuse me, let me back up. For those of us who don't like Trump, right, it's still not reasonable to say he would do what Biden is doing because what Biden is doing or what's going on in Gaza is at a level that you can't impugn that on people. You can't, it's bad enough to say someone would murder someone, but to say that someone would participate and actively participate in the genocide, until I actually see them do that kind of stuff, right? You can't say you're like Hitler
Well,
if you haven't done anything.
I agree, and I've never debated that with you once at all.
And so that is why RFK Jr. is still viable, and he's increasingly viable because what is happening is Biden is, I cannot say this enough, Biden is collapsing. He's down to 51% of the Black vote. He's down to the lowest percentage of the Hispanic vote in the Democratic Party in I don't even know how long. He's been crushed in the under 40 vote. I'm just saying he is becoming unelectable. Okay, because and the smart intelligentsia in the Democrat on the progressive side is starting to worry, and they're coming out with it. Okay, so whether he's going to step aside, and then you got Kamala, right? It's not looking good over there. So, in my opinion, RFK is looking increasingly viable, and Trump is unfortunately, in the absence of acceptance of RFK, the only alternative is Trump. And literally, if you look from last September, look at the polling data, look at the detailed polling by ethnicity and also the stuff, by age, the trends are moving towards Trump and RFK away from Biden. Yeah, they're going to try the lesser two evils. Genocide is different.
Okay, can I respond then to that? Because I think again, you make a great point, but I hope to people that listen and share this and actually do a little bit of investigation into why we're talking about what we're talking about, which you can find the work at www.thecon.tv, which is the blueprint for everything that we're talking about. But yeah, I keep saying, and I got attacked yesterday and the day before by Blue No Matter Who, that, dude, get rid of this nonsense about the lesser of two evils. You know that Trump is a criminal, scoundrel that's going to lead to fascism and all of the rest. Do I think Trump is non-negotiable? I personally do. Do I think he could win? Yeah, I do, in a monumental way. And my biggest, concern, and this is why I said have me as a placeholder, when RFK Jr. first came out, boy, was I hopeful. Here's an environmentalist guy who's been on, he's been my kind of guy. He's an athlete, he's in shape. He looks the part. He comes from a spectacular family. I was unaware of a lot of, actually, I was kind of aware of his drug days, but I knew that he'd come out of it. And he was one of these guys that are committed to, obviously the work that's necessary to rehabilitate and that sort of thing, which I always am inspired by people who've gone through that sort of scenario. So on a lot of fundamental levels, but the most important one was, the CIA was involved, if not directly responsible for my uncle's assassination. I thought, what a grand way to enter the conversation, because, oh yeah, people, by the way, the third rail that Patrick Lovell continues to hit that nobody's going to see, I've revealed to you that the CIA, i.e. Sullivan and Cromwell, was there in the aftermath of the 2008 great financial crisis and just said, you know what, we're just going to change all of the laws. We're not going to really change them. We represent the consortium, Sullivan and Cromwell, of the too big to fail systemically important financial institutions. We're just going to move the needle a little bit and have 98 meetings behind the scenes that none of anybody in mainstream media is going to talk about. And we're going to provide $33 trillion to the system that destroyed tens of millions of people, not just tens of millions of people, African Americans, Latino Americans, then white Americans, and then white working class. They got everybody. And then they got the whole world. Okay. That's what nobody's talking about. And oh yeah, so I thought RFK Jr. was going to be that guy. And so right away, and then I find out, oh, wait a second, Dennis Kucinich is going to be his campaign manager. And this is what I was, addressing in my truth bomb the other day. And again, Dennis and I used to talk once or twice a week. He used to tell me a lot of things that reanimate and validate everything that I'm telling you. But then it was crystal clear to me. He got very nervous one day when I sent him an email and said, look, all of these things that are happening out there, with the insanity of MAGA and all of these things, can we find a way to invest in a campaign? And I'm talking to Dennis Kucinich of like 1980, 1990, to just show the ridiculous magnitude of white right-wing billionaires. This was before the revelations of what was going on in the Supreme Court. I was going to go first with the Koch structure, and then the Mercer apparatus, and then the Bannon universe, and all of these guys that were involved, just so the revolving door and the interest and how that affects and everything else. And then I was going to tie it all to Trump. And I was just thinking, we could find a somebody that leaned Democrat to fund this. I was just thinking of it as a producer because it would be an easy story to tell. Dennis Kucinich says to me, we can't go there. I'm not going anywhere near there. I can't even touch that. And then I started backtracking in my mind, and I started thinking, okay, wait a second. Dennis was on Fox for a very long time. Oh, Dennis definitely knows the apparatus of Steve Bannon and company. Oh, and he was involved with some other things. And suddenly my investigative sort of scenarios started playing out. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. What is RFK Jr. talking about? Is he going to talk about the Federal Reserve and what I'm talking about through Federal Reserve Act 13.3? No. He's going to talk about everything else. And that to me is like yet another example of this insanely crafty, diabolical, and I'm not even going to put this on RFK Jr. I'm going to talk about the handlers, the people that know where you've got to fit in the matrix to be in a way to get the money from whomever they're getting money from until they can build up the critical mass of donors. That's kind of how it works in politics. I mean, there's these groups of, pockets of these professionals, look at James Carville, who's been doing this for decades, going back to the Clintons and so forth. And, they know how to play this incredibly dynamic game, given what their resources are and how they can get messages out and so forth. And here I am, I'm desperately looking for somebody as a third party candidate who's going to be able to take the information that we spent all the effort to do, which, like you've said millions of times, is bulletproof. And boy, would I like them to sing our song. And boy, would I get behind them in a giant way. But it's like, at this moment, he's not going to do that. Nobody's going to do anything unless we've got the leverage, unless we've got tens of thousands and maybe even hundreds of thousands of people to where they're like, oh, now you're worth talking to. Now you're worth listening to. So look, in the grand scheme of things, based on the things that Kevin has set forth, and I agreed to this before, but I got to do, even a step further. Logically, everything Kevin has said makes absolute critical sense to me. It does. And then I start to think about my internal mechanics, because I guess the reason that I have any role whatsoever to play in this is because I was the producer that put the con together. I did come up with initially the notion of the Clean New Deal, definitely built into the whole scenario of what the New Deal did. And again, Kevin and I, because Kevin's a professional consultant with, renewable energy and other things that he's in the midst of, I know that the answer has to be in rebuilding the American infrastructure to reconstitute the American middle class through a renewable energy mass reconfiguration of our entire energy system. We got to do it anyway, and it's gonna happen eventually. But I think it could happen after World War III, after the billionaire class gets everything they can and then destroys half of the world, and then they'll rebuild it. Do we want to wait for that? Do we want to wait for the poison of nuclear war in 1,000 years? I mean, it's so stupid what we're in the midst of. It's ridiculous. And so, what Kevin is saying when he illustrated by putting mute and me talking, and you couldn't hear and yelling at how ridiculous it looks. He's right. But I'm gonna put it to you out there, anybody listening to this, you can't just give us a comment about what you think we should do. You've got to understand what we're revealing to you, and you've got to join us, and you've got to share us, and you've got to, really add your 2 cents, and we try to build a coalition. But, it's just, Kevin, it's nearly impossible for me, given to know that everybody's lying to us, to join the lies, to try to work within the system of lies, because you've got to be like water and light, and water and light goes wherever it goes, because that's the way it works. How many financial people, think about it, I'll go back to you, why can't I think, the Wolf of Wall Street? No, it's not. I just said his name earlier. Anyway, this guy is a total, he's like every other guy on Wall Street. He wants to make money, but he gives us the truth of the macroeconomic affairs that are like, this is what we got to contend with, and it's not going to work, and it's all going to fall in our heads. And so by me telling you the truth, I'm getting kicked off of YouTube. So now I'm not going to tell you all of these macroeconomic figures. I'm going to tell you everything but that, to hopefully get you into a place where you can read between the lines. I mean, look how ridiculous this is.
No, the thing about it is, but Patrick, if you start talking about what the American people need to hear, they need to hear the truth. They do need to hear that. But the first thing they need to hear, because of where they are, is, how is this going to help them? Why should they care? Right? We need to empower, we need to remind them that they do have the power, right, to change this. So we start talking about the reinvestment in rebuilding America and rebuilding the American middle class. And how does that look like? And the fact that we can do it if we coalesce behind an independent president. And we start getting numbers, because those subjects are a part of the political discussion. And I don't think those subjects are going to be throttled at all. It's just a question of, does it resonate, with people? And I think it will start resonating with people. We have from now this is in March, through like July, August, to build our coalition. And then we walk up to RFK, who at that point will see a Biden on the ropes and see a Trump who's still having death of a thousand cuts with all the legal stuff going on. There'll be more stuff coming out, more stuff coming out, more stuff coming out. Okay, but he's, but he'd be hanging in there just fine, right? RFK will see, he knows there is a lane that he can go, that he can cut beneath Biden, and it's just him and Trump. And Biden is now back in the low 20s, and he's up in the 30s with Trump, right? We could be that difference with our Legion. Now, if you look at his economic plan, he does talk a lot about both investing in America and certainly renewable energy. And he also he has built up a life challenging power, as an environmental attorney. So there's a sensitivity there, if he could be president, to hold power to account. Now, the issue again is he's not going to do things that stop him from getting to that spot, right? But he can certainly commit to the Clean New Deal when it's framed in a way that doesn't reveal the $70 trillion secret, right? But says that it's general. It's saying we're going to appoint an independent counsel who will look into the criminal activities of how this happened to us, right? That is not, all the people who know that they have engaged in criminal activity, they're not going to feel like, oh, okay, I've been exposed and this is going to lead to anything. They're going to think that this is populism as like everything else. There's been other people, just like Bernie did, when he said the business model of Wall Street is fraud. The point
let me just insert this real quick, because you're right again, and I get it, and I love your style, and I love what you're talking about, and I have to acknowledge that I've gone for a year straight with the Clean New Deal message, and has it resonated? What have I been saying? To your point, the investigation already happened, people. I've already got all of the answers. Okay, what I've been pitching to you was, if we could raise millions of dollars, I'm a producer with thousands of hours, thousands of pieces of evidence and hundreds of hours of footage and so much more, that I can create a Lollapalooza like barnstorming tour that reveals all of these things in, quite frankly, very, not just informative and very accurate, but very entertaining ways, in a way that would be monumental. But I haven't been able to move the tens of millions of you that got destroyed by the system, because you're thinking somebody else is going to come to the rescue, or you're not believing me, or you're not getting the message, maybe because I got and whatever. So just in case you happen to get this, we put a GoFundMe deal where we're asking you to invest $13 to do this, because we would like to get to Washington, D.C. underneath the gaze of Abraham Lincoln, with millions of people behind us, where we have, which could be like what you described earlier, as kind of like an independent, what do both the Democratic and Republican conventions, kind of like this convention, and I saw this, quite frankly, years ago, people talked about this, like an American People's Convention, that really deals with the real issues, which is what we're trying to do. If we could find the ability to bring us all together, maybe we do hit the sweet spot. Maybe I try to put this stuff on the back burner for a long time. Either, maybe this is the only time I'll be able to say it, is that if we could raise the capital, and again, we spent $4.5 million. The numbers are 357,000 of you would have to donate $13 just to get to where we were to start the project. That wasn't the tens of thousands of hours that went into this to get the $70 trillion truth. And so if we could put that in Washington, D.C., underneath the gaze of Abraham Lincoln, who once said, after in the Gettysburg Address, which is just enshrined in the Lincoln Memorial, a nation of, by, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. It's our time to do it, because what we discovered on this journey, I discovered on this journey years and years ago, that, my investor, my partner, my guy who made all of this, allowed me to put it all together, said to me, if you can figure out how we went by and of, by, and for the people to of, by, and for the corrupt corporations, I'm in. And we did. And that's the only story that we all need to be aware of. And what are the answers? What are the fixes? What are the solutions to what this system has done to destroy everything we think we are. That's what we're going to be able to present to you if we came on board. But to your point, Kevin, like, man, again, I always hope you feel it, my sincerity and my acknowledging that I think that strategically you're right. I hate it because that I think they should just galvanize behind us. And it's not because of ego, it's because it's just what it is. And again, if you saw the work in the con, you'd understand that we're championing millions of people like you. That's what it's for. And those of you who've already gone to this, but I don't know of all the biblical parables, but you think of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's what we've been in the midst of nonstop. And so, Kevin, I mean, look, I'm going to put this up. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity for closing comments. I'll put it up on YouTube, and then, we'll wait for your 3-minute, deal. And then let's put together a one sheet on what happens next. And my truth bombs are fine about what we could do, in terms of the agenda, and just see how it plays out. But in the interim, I mean, I still haven't given it, I told you I did this 2 weeks ago, and I went right back to, damning all of the liars out there. Right after, I made you the promise.
Can't stand it. I don't blame you. I know. Believe me, I can't stand it either. But I mean, but at the end of the day, next steps though, Patrick, next steps, get us okay. You know some editors and stuff like that. Get us an estimate. Let's get an estimate of how much it would cost for them to break up some of the truth bombs into 2 and 3 minute, or 5-minute excerpts. I will start recording some, for that Roseanne has asked me for in terms of appeals to the bar, on behalf of the Clean New Deal, so that we can take these smaller pieces and put them out there on X, put them out there on TikTok, put them out there on YouTube and stuff like that, that are not discussing the third rail issues and stuff like that. And to see if we could start generating some interest. If we need to do a crowd share, just to pay for the editing, or like I said, or if we know the dollars, then maybe it's manageable, but whatever. My point is
this whole thing would pay for it if people invested in it. I mean, that would be part of the budget. I'd be more than happy to do that. I mean, again, look, people, if you're out there and you're one of those people that say on my feed, oh yeah, everybody's got a 2008 story. Oh yeah, I know that. Oh, do you have a plan? All right, guys, just look at what we've already done. If we could get, let's just do the numbers real quick. I think we got to be honestly. My goal is objective is 10,000 followers and somewhere in the 1,000 range of people that are on board within the next 2 months. Okay, let's just say we got 10,000. Donations at $13 a piece. I mean, would that be enough? But we can't wait that long. So, the bottom line is, okay, so we self-fund, we see where we go. And now you see the dilemma, people, because we're all working. My sister Roseanne all day, every day is feeding people, hungry people, and clothing them on the streets and dealing
food and facts.
food and facts. And she gives her life to that, but she gives everything she can to this movement. I'm in the midst of the biggest deals of my life. And I'm just like ready to say, you know what? Fuck everybody. I'm going to be my bourgeois self and you can kiss my ass, but I'm not that guy after so many years. I really
you going to be as bourgeois as Putin? What's going on?
Bourgeois like Putin. I like that. And then Kevin is working his butt off and he's got great work going on, but we're all people willing to sacrifice our time because we love this country. And we know that without this country, we can't be what we are. How many of you are like that? Why would you allow this country to slip through your fingers to this massive, insane corruption? You got to come on board. You got to spread the love. You got to spread because otherwise there's more misery to come. You think it's going to get better if we don't do anything? No.
It's going to be much worse.
Kevin, well, I'm going to ask you guys 2 last questions and then we got to scuttle out because I got to get on another call. Roseanne, let's give it to you first for closing comments. But then, Kevin, I want to give it to you what would Martin Luther King do given the situation? Think about that and try to answer if you can, because you put this to me once before and I thought it was very effective. Roseanne, what's your final comments on this?
My final comment is I want people to think about, because I look at all kinds of liars and how could I ever work with liars? How could I ever work with the remnants of the Democratic machine in Chicago. Ain't gonna happen, never will happen. I'll be dead and the ashes will be spread all over because they can say whatever they want. I never believed them. And why? No matter what they said, I looked at what they did. I have to see people. I have to see independent, and I even hate to call them politicians. I want to see individuals who just frickin' understand good from evil and understand there is the truth. That's all I want to see. And I'll support somebody who can say, here's the truth. I get it. The light went on. I see how everything's connected. I see what actually could be in it for me. Okay? If everybody's looking for what's in it for them, okay, baby, you can get what's in it for you. But you know how you get that? You stop the bullshit at the top. If you can't do that, if you can't do that, if you can't say that, what use do I have for you? And you know what? Failure is not an option.
Kevin, take us home with what do you think Martin Luther King would say to this conundrum that we've been discussing?
Well, he would, and it's hard to channel Dr. King, but I will say this much. I believe that he would say, looking at the landscape of America today with a broken heart and tears in his eyes, I think he would look to each of us and he would say, we got here. We got here because we were convinced, we were told that our enemy is some other hardworking person. Our enemy is some other person who's also been lied to. Our enemy is some other person who lives in another part of the country, who has a different ethnicity, who maybe has a different gender, who maybe is of a different age or whatever. And but that division has convinced us, has blocked us from seeing that they're suffering just like I am. All of us who've been taken advantage of by what's happening in this country and what we all know in our hearts has been happening in this country, that this is not fair and square going on here. We all know that this is corruption. And without having to get into the details of what that corruption is, we're all in the same spot. All we have left, all the American people have left, is the fact that we have numbers and we are empowered to use our numbers for the benefit of all of us. So let's come together. Let's come together and let's elect someone who works for us. Let's stop voting for anyone who doesn't represent us, who what they do in office does not reflect what most of the people in our area want, right? Okay, this is where we are now. Because if we don't do it now, they're closing the door. They're closing the door on our opportunity to do it. So that's my call out to everyone. We're in this thing together. We need to unite behind the Clean New Deal. The Clean New Deal will be transformative in the lives of most Americans because it will shift the recommitment of our country. Our priority will become us once again. Our wealth will be invested in us once again. And America will be the great country it had been for much of some of our lives, depending on how old you are. So that's my takeaway message. I look forward to the battle. We have, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have about 7 months to election day. We need to get to work. We need to come together. Once we've come together, we need to select one of these independents who we believe in, convince them to unite behind us in Clean New Deal, And then we need to go about the business of restoring America, because this is not America that any of us thought we'd ever live in, you know. So thank you, Patrick. I appreciate the opportunity to talk today, and I'm ready to go to work.
And you always have been. And I love your critical thinking, and I love your ability to stand firm in your commitment and into your positions, into your reason and your rationality. And and this is what it's all about, people, because again, you don't have to be in a sort of controlled relationship to be able to see the forest for the trees. Somebody doesn't have to be so lock and step with you in a sense where they accept everything that you say as gospel to be able to understand that together we're better than the sum of our parts, right? And so I just want to finish with this context, because I do have to think long and hard. And it's not that I have to think long and hard, it's how I have to approach it in terms of the pivot. That's what I have to think long and hard about, because I'm caught in my own ways, because like you said earlier, Kevin, I am so close to this. But if you're just seeing this for the first time, or if you're someone who's seen this 1,000 times, you got to understand that I went the distance because I knew they were pissing on my head, telling me it was rain. Who's they? The powers that be, the system. They did everything in their power to prevent me from being able to put together all of the pieces, which is the investigation that in a court of law would be constituted as discovery that would lead to some sort of summation based on the way the laws are written, so that everybody in the country would understand what happened to them in the aftermath of the great financial crisis that has created everything we are. Now, those of you who think that it was, ancient history, you've got to understand, no, it's not ancient history. It's how we function. But to understand how we function, you got to understand the blueprint of how it works, which is the Con, which we gave it to you for free at www.thecon.tv. That just takes you up to the 2008 Great Financial Crisis. And if you go into the new Untouchables, you'll see what was on top for season 2 of the Con, which you can find by just doing a Google search. And that sum total gives you all of the answers. Now, if you can't find somewhere in the vicinity of 25 hours to be able to do that, then just know, if you believe in liberty and justice for all, if you want the spirit of freedom and liberty to soar, then the integrity of the plane has to work. And that happens from the integrity of the law. And what we are giving you is the answers, such that if you, me, and everyone you see who isn't, and this is incredibly important, a Nazi who believes in dignity and decency, in integrity and sustainability and liberty, if we unite and come out of our silos in the unity, it will be to crush the tyranny of misery. And that is our destiny. And that is the Clean New Deal. So I'll just finish with what I always finish with. Failure is not an option. Rise, roar, revolt. It's not true. When you have the truth, you're bulletproof. It's not rocket science, it's racketeering. And this collectively has to be the righteous grind for the Clean New Deal. Onwards and upwards. Thank you for joining us. Be well. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Have a good afternoon, Patrick.
Thank you.